Okay, so picture this. It's 334 BC, and the ancient world is about to witness the ultimate gamble. A young king from the small, rugged kingdom of Macedonia decides he's going to take on the greatest power on earth, the Persian Empire. This is the story of how one insane bet completely changed the course of history.
I mean, you really have to let that sink in. Alexander is just 21 years old, and he's leading his army across the Hellespont to challenge a superpower that stretched all the way from Egypt to India. It's this incredible act of audacity. We're talking a real-life David versus Goliath showdown.
All right, so let's look at the tail of the tape here. Who are the contenders in this epic showdown? Well, on one side, you've got the Macedonian kingdom. Now, Alexander's army wasn't the biggest, but it was a professional fighting force, full of skilled veterans. They had the elite companion cavalry, and of course, the unstoppable Macedonian phalanx with those insane 18-foot pikes. And on the other side, well, you've got the Persian Empire. They're the undisputed heavyweight champions of the age, a vast, wealthy empire with a huge army and a really powerful navy.
So you might be thinking, this is a huge gamble, but it paid off, like almost immediately. His invasion kicks off with a stunning victory at the Battle of the River Granicus. And look, this wasn't some minor skirmish. This was Alexander kicking in the front door and announcing to the entire world that he was a serious, immediate threat to Persian rule.
But that awesome first win, it immediately created a massive strategic headache. You see, the Persians had this huge navy that could have easily cut off Alexander's supply lines back to Greece, and Alexander's fleet was just no match for them. So what do? I mean, really, how do you take on a superpower's navy when you don't really have a fleet to speak of?
Well, Alexander's solution to this was it was pure military genius. He knew he couldn't win a head-on fight at sea, so he decided to make their entire fleet irrelevant. His plan was to forget the sea entirely. He was going to take down their navy from the land by conquering every single one of their coastal bases.
And you know what? He executed this plan with just ruthless efficiency. First, he takes the fortified city of Miletus. Next up, Halicarnassus falls, but only after a really tough fight. See, with every port he took, that mighty Persian navy became a little more useless. Their ships were basically stranded with nowhere to dock. It's brilliant. He was crippling their greatest strength without ever having to step foot on a warship. So as his campaign is rolling on, Alexander gets to this city called Gordium, and there he's faced with this legendary challenge, the Gordian knot. You see, there was this ancient prophecy that said whoever could untie this impossibly tangled knot was destined to rule all of Asia. So what does Alexander do? Does he spend hours meticulously trying to unpick it? Nah, he just draws his sword and slices the thing right in half. And this one moment, it tells you everything you need to know about the guy. When faced with an impossible problem, he doesn't play by the rules. He just rewrites them. Okay, but while Alexander is busy forging his own destiny, the Persian king Darius III isn't just sitting around. He's preparing a response. 18 months after the invasion started, Darius personally leads this massive army, gets behind Alexander, and cuts off his escape route. The plan was simple: trap and completely annihilate the Macedonians.
And the odds here, they were just staggering. At the battlefield near Issus, the Persian army had Alexander's forces outnumbered by almost 2-1. Think about it. Alexander is trapped, he's cornered, and he's facing an army with overwhelming numbers. This looks like the end of the road. Now, Darius had chosen his ground very carefully, a narrow plain, only about 6 miles wide, squeezed between the mountains and the sea. This would force Alexander into a head-on fight. But here's the irony, the really crucial part. That same narrow space meant Darius couldn't use his biggest advantage, his numbers, to surround the Macedonians. His so-called perfect trap had a fatal flaw. And just like that, the stage was set for the Battle of Issus. And this was so much more than just a battle. This was a personal duel between two kings for the fate of an entire empire, with both of them leading their armies from the front. All right, so let's break down the lineup, the order of battle. Darius puts his best cavalry down by the sea. In the center, he's got his elite Greek mercenaries, tough fighters. On the Macedonian side, Alexander gives the left flank to his most trusted general, Parmenion. The phalanx, as always, holds the center. And on the right, Alexander himself at the head of his elite companion cavalry, just waiting to make the decisive strike. So Darius is waiting for Alexander to make the first move, and he doesn't have to wait very long. Alexander charges.
He leads his cavalry in this shocking, lightning-fast assault that just shatters the Persian left. But in the center, his phalanx is in serious trouble, getting pushed back by those Greek mercenaries. So seeing this danger, Alexander does the unthinkable. He wheels his cavalry around and charges directly at King Darius himself. And it worked. Terrified, Darius completely panics and flees the battlefield. And when the king runs, the army collapses.
But hang on, we absolutely cannot forget what was happening on the other side of the battlefield. While Alexander was making that dramatic charge, his general Parmenion was locked in a desperate fight against the best of the Persian cavalry. Parmenion's dogged defense over on the left flank, that wasn't just a sideshow, it was absolutely vital. If he hadn't held the line, Alexander's glorious charge would have meant nothing. The whole army would have been rolled up. So yeah, the Battle of Issus was a world-changing victory, no doubt about it. But in the aftermath, something really shifted inside Alexander. His ambition started to grow beyond just being the king of Macedonia. He began to see a much, much greater destiny for himself. That victory at Issus basically opened the floodgates. Suddenly, the entire Phoenician coast submits, which finally puts an end to Persian sea power for good. Then the incredibly tough city of Tyre is conquered, but only after a brutal 7-month siege. And then, and this is just incredible, Egypt just surrenders without a fight. They didn't see him as a conqueror at all. They welcomed him as a liberator and literally crowned him pharaoh. But even as he's being hailed as a living god in Egypt, there's serious trouble brewing back home. King Agis of Sparta, backed by Persian money, launches a full-on revolt against Macedonian rule. Suddenly his whole empire is at risk. But Alexander wasn't stupid. He'd left a very capable general, a guy named Antipater, in charge back in Greece. Antipater marches south, meets the rebels in battle, and, well, even the legendary Spartans were no match for the Macedonian military machine. The revolt was crushed, the Spartan king was killed, and Alexander's home base was secure once again.
So, with everything secure behind him, Alexander gets a letter from the defeated King Darius, and the offer is unbelievable. We're talking a fortune in gold, his daughter's hand in marriage, and, get this, the entire western half of the Persian Empire. It was a deal any other conqueror in history would have snapped up in a heartbeat. But of course, Alexander wasn't any other conqueror. You have to remember, this string of impossible victories, the prophecies, being crowned a pharaoh, all of it had convinced him that his destiny was way bigger than just defeating Persia. He believed he was meant to rule the world. So he rejects the offer, flat out. He didn't want half the empire. He was coming to take it all. And that right there sets the stage for the final, total conquest of Persia. And it leaves us with this one huge question. What could possibly stop a man who doesn't just believe in destiny, but believes it's his to command?